Have you ever thought about Santa Claus? Where was he born? Was he Santa Claus from birth? Or did he become one later? You'll find the answers to all these questions in today's video. The movie begins on Christmas Day in a beautifully decorated town. Every house was adorned with festive decorations, except for one. Inside that undecorated house, we see three children with their father. The children were upset with him, and their moods were somber. Despite it being Christmas, the man was leaving for work instead of spending time with his kids. From their conversation, it becomes clear that their mother is no longer alive. Since the father was going to work, he called an elderly woman to look after the children for a while. To cheer them up, the old woman sat down to tell them a story. The story was about a little boy who embarked on a daring adventure. In this story, we are taken to a vast, snowy forest. In that forest, a young boy named Nikolas lived with his father. One day, as they were searching for firewood, a giant bear approached them. Frightened, they quickly ran back to their home. As the story unfolds, we learn that Nikolas lost his mother at a very young age. Their current situation was dire. They barely had enough food to eat or any source of income. Before going to sleep, Nikolas asked his father to tell him a story. His father recounted a tale about his mother. He said, "Many years ago, your mother crossed a frozen kingdom. There, she encountered two massive sleeping giants. In reality, these giants were enormous mountains, but they looked like monsters. After crossing them, she reached a beautiful village. No humans lived there, only elves. The village was called Elfhelm. These elves resembled humans but were much shorter than some people. Their ears were unusual, and they possessed magical abilities. The elves adored your mother. When she returned from the village, she brought back lots of chocolates and toys. So many that we shared them with our neighbors, filling the surroundings with joy. As they were engrossed in the story, they heard a strange noise outside. Thinking it was a wild animal, they grabbed an axe and went outside to investigate. However, the creature was actually a tiny mouse. Nikolas's father tried multiple times to kill it, but the mouse kept escaping. Feeling sorry for the little creature, Nikolas pleaded with his father to spare it. The next morning, Nikolas named the mouse and even tried talking to it. His father, seeing this, told him, "Mice can never talk." Later that day, Nikolas and his father went to the royal palace. The king had summoned all his subjects. Addressing them, the king said, "I have forgotten what it means to live with belief. Whoever can bring back joy and faith to me will receive whatever they desire." The previous night, Nikolas's father had told him a story about the elves' village. No one had ever seen elves in real life, but the story spread throughout the village. That night, some villagers visited Nikolas's father, urging him to join them in searching for the elves. They planned to find the elves, bring back proof of their existence, and present it to the king, hoping to be rewarded with wealth. Since they were all struggling financially, Nikolas's father agreed to go. When Nikolas learned about this, he felt heartbroken. His father assured him, "I will be back in 7 to 8 days. Until then, my sister will take care of you." When his aunt arrived, she treated Nikolas kindly in front of his father. But the moment his father left, her true nature emerged. She took control of the house and started mistreating Nikolas. She handed him a few belongings and threw him out of the house. Among those belongings was a vegetable doll that his mother had made, one of Nikolas's most cherished possessions. Nikolas built a small shelter out of wood near the house, where he lived with his mouse. Days passed, but his father did not return. Meanwhile, his aunt forced him to do all the household chores and barely gave him any food. One day, she gave him a bowl of delicious soup. Nikolas ate it happily, but then he noticed something. The soup had been made using his mother's vegetable doll. Enraged, he yelled at his aunt. That's when he noticed his hat, another gift from his mother. His aunt was about to burn it. Nikolas quickly ran outside, grabbed the hat, and extinguished the fire in the snow. As he examined the hat, he noticed an intricate pattern embroidered on it. It matched the design from the story his father had told him. At that moment, Nikolas realized the story was true. The elves' magical village really existed. Determined, he decided to find it. The next morning, he set off on his journey, taking the little mouse with him. Along the way, he arrived at a village. Nikolas met an old woman along the way. As soon as she saw him, she told him to turn back, insisting that elves did not exist and that searching for their village was pointless. However, Nikolas ignored her warning and continued walking. After several days of traveling, he took shelter in a cave. While lighting a fire, he absent-mindedly muttered, "If magic is real, then my mouse will talk." Amazingly, at that very moment, Nikolas's mouse began to speak. Nikolas was stunned. His belief in magic grew even stronger. After resting, he resumed his journey. As he walked through the forest, a deer suddenly attacked him. To escape, Nikolas quickly climbed a tree. From above, he noticed an arrow stuck in the deer's body. Despite his mouse's repeated warnings, Nikolas approached the injured deer. He gently petted it and carefully removed the arrow. Grateful for having its life saved, the deer became attached to Nikolas. Nikolas continued his journey, but soon he realized the deer was following him. The animal motioned for Nikolas to climb onto its back. Understanding the gesture, Nikolas mounted the deer, and they traveled quickly toward the sleeping giant, which was actually a massive mountain. According to Nikolas's map, the elves' village lay beyond these mountains. However, when they reached the top, all they could see was endless snow and a fierce blizzard. Despite searching everywhere, Nikolas found nothing and eventually collapsed from exhaustion. He hadn't eaten in days. At that moment, a young elf child and his grandfather happened to pass by. They saw Nikolas unconscious in the snow. The old elf hesitated, unwilling to help a human, but the child said, "We shouldn't leave someone in this condition. No matter what, we must help him." Hearing this, the old elf used magic to revive Nikolas. He had cast a spell of belief, meaning whatever Nikolas believed or imagined would come true. Nikolas told them he had come in search of his father, who had gone looking for the elves but never returned. Then he asked, "Where is Elfhelm?" The elf child replied, "We're standing right outside the largest road leading into Elfhelm. Can't you see it?" But Nikolas saw nothing but endless snow. The old elf explained, "First, you must truly believe Elfhelm exists. Only then will you be able to see it." Nikolas closed his eyes, fully believing in the hidden elf city. Moments later, the magical village of Elfhelm appeared before him. The old elf secretly took Nikolas to a party where elves were celebrating. The atmosphere was filled with joy, and there was an abundance of delicious food. It was a Christmas celebration. Nikolas's mouse was thrilled to see so much food for the first time. Suddenly, the elf queen arrived. She cast a powerful spell, destroying everything. She had forbidden celebrations because all the elves were in deep sorrow. The reason? Humans had betrayed the elves. Some humans had even kidnapped an elf child. Hearing this, Nikolas stood up. The queen glared at him in anger and demanded, "How did a human child enter our village?" The queen asked Nikolas, "Did you come here to kidnap another elf child?" Nikolas replied, "No, I only came here to find my father. He was searching for the Elfheim village but never returned." He promised the queen, "I will find the kidnapped elf child and bring them back." However, the queen didn't believe a single word and ordered him to be locked up as punishment. Inside the prison, Nikolas met a wandering elf who had been imprisoned for his mischief. This elf child had a deep passion for fireworks and even had some magical abilities. Additionally, he always spoke the truth. He was incapable of lying. Because of his own mistakes, he had been locked away. Nikolas said, "My mother once came to Elfheim, and all the elves treated her kindly. But now the queen is furious and has locked me up. I just want to find my father. Please help me." The little elf agreed. But just then, a gigantic monster appeared. The monster had been sleeping all this time, but their conversation had woken it up. Upon seeing a human, the monster was about to eat Nikolas. To save him, the little elf girl threw a firecracker into the monster's mouth. As the firecracker exploded, they both ran out of the prison and ended up falling onto a rooftop. However, the guards spotted them. Quickly, they rushed into an elf school to hide. A teacher inside the school was terrified to see a human. But Nikolas tried to convince her, saying, "If you help me escape from here, I will find the kidnapped elf child and bring them back." Hearing this, the elf teacher helped them escape through a secret tunnel. Once outside, Nikolas saw his reindeer friend. He quickly climbed onto the reindeer's back, taking the elf girl with him. But the guards were chasing after them. To distract the guards, the elf girl kept setting off firecrackers. However, when she saw that the gates of Elfheim were closing, she jumped off the reindeer and helped Nikolas escape. Despite traveling for days, Nikolas still couldn't find the kidnapped child. Frustrated, he prayed, Please show me the way to find the lost child." Just then, he noticed a colorful rope in the jungle. Following the rope's path, he arrived in front of a cage. Inside the cage, he saw the kidnapped elf child. Nikolas immediately recognized that this was the missing child. However, before Nikolas could free the child, some men captured him. Among them was his father. Seeing his father, Nikolas ran to hug him. He pleaded with him, "Please return this elf child to their village." But the men refused. They said, "If we present this child to the king, he will reward us with a fortune." Annoyed by Nikolas's constant pleading, they decided to tie him up as well. Nikolas's mouse friend kept begging his father not to do this. But when his father saw that the mouse could talk, he was shocked. Late at night, while everyone was asleep, Nikolas's father secretly freed him and the elf child. He told Nikolas, "I couldn't help you in front of everyone, so I had to pretend to tie you up." As they were escaping together, the others suddenly woke up. The enemies kept shooting arrows at them one after another. But Nikolas had been enchanted with the magic of belief. So he kept thinking, "My reindeer will fly now." And indeed, the reindeer started flying. However, since Nikolas's father was behind him, the reindeer couldn't fly properly. Realizing this, his father sacrificed his own life to save Nikolas. He cut the rope, allowing the reindeer to fly freely. But in doing so, Nikolas's father fell into a deep ravine and perished. Nikolas cried his heart out, but there was nothing he could do. Afterward, Nikolas and the elf child were brought back to Elfham village by the reindeer. Seeing the kidnapped child safely returned, the elves were amazed. Overjoyed, they gave Nikolas many toys as gifts. Looking at them, Nikolas thought, "If I share these toys with all the children, everyone will be happy." So he requested the elves to make even more toys and chocolates. Following his request, the elves eagerly began making them. Then they packed everything into a huge sack and handed it to Nikolas. Just as Nikolas was about to leave, the queen suddenly attacked him. But then, she noticed a locket around his neck and became deeply emotional. It was his mother's locket. Long ago, Nikolas's mother had visited Elfham. She and the queen were the best of friends. Before leaving, her friends had given her many toys and chocolates. She had promised, "I will return one day." But after so many years, she never came back. Nikolas revealed, she would have returned, but she passed away from a terrible illness. Hearing this, the queen and the elves were heartbroken. The queen finally understood. Not all humans are the same. There may be some bad ones, but there are also good ones. So she no longer stopped Nikolas. Nikolas took all the gifts straight to the king. He showed them to the king, who was delighted. Then, together, they traveled across the kingdom, giving a gift to each child. The king said, "Tomorrow morning, when the children wake up and find all these gifts and chocolates, it will be the true moment of joy. This is the light of faith and happiness I have been searching for all this time." Once they were done, the king asked Nikolas, "Will you work for me? Once a year during Christmas, you must spread joy to everyone just like today." Later, Nikolas and the king visited his aunt and gave her chocolates and toys. Then, he soared into the sky once more with his reindeer. Watching this, his wicked aunt was left speechless. She had never believed in magic, but now she was seeing it with her own eyes. And thus, Nikolas's story came to an end. As soon as the story ended, the three children were overjoyed. When they went downstairs, they saw that the entire house was decorated with Christmas lights, chocolates, and gifts. As the old lady was about to leave, the children caught a glimpse of her ears. That's when they realized, she is an elf. Stepping outside, she used her magic to light up the sky with fireworks. And at that moment, it became clear. This old elf was the very same little elf fairy who once helped Nikolas. This movie beautifully portrays the origin of Santa Claus. It also teaches us that joy and happiness never decrease when shared. They only grow. No matter how hard things get, never give up. Keep believing. And as we all know, faith moves mountains, while doubt divides the path.